introduction for speech 3. Here are my notes. She's going to zoom in on that. So she'll have to get up. And then she's going to show the audience as well, and I'll go ahead and get started. Alright. Growing up, there's always been an interesting family dynamic. With the fridge, pantry, and even the trash having to be locked, everyone in the family has to play an important role to keep my sister safe. Why is that? Because she has Prader-Willi syndrome. Now I'm going to go over some of the main points, such as the history and facts, the prognosis, and even the future outlook of how they're going to cure and make it better for the children and the families that are affected. So let's start with the history and facts. According to the Foundation of the Prader-Willi Research website, it was given the name in 1956 by 2 doctors, and that's where the name Prader and Willi comes from. Now, the way it's diagnosed is at birth. It shows signs of being very weak and not being able to obviously sit as a baby, but not being able to, when they're infants, not being able to suck, so they have to be fed to, or tube fed, and so on. Now, before this was as common and there was as much research, a lot of kids went undiagnosed and they wondered what was going on later in life when they had lots of obesity and they didn't have a diagnosis for it up until recent years with technology getting better and it becoming not mainstream, but doctors are more aware of it now. The average doctor is a little more aware of it now. That being said, I'm going to go ahead and start talking about the prognosis of it now that I've gone over the history. So the prognosis is they never feel full. Their stomach and their brain don't correlate properly with each other, and so no matter how much they eat, there's always a feeling of like starving. And just like me, when I get hungry, I get a little upset, and so it causes some behavioral issues. As if you're always hungry, you're always kind of hurting, and when you hurt sometimes you tend to act up a little bit. Food seeking is one of the big life-threatening things with it, as the kids, they can go out and cross big roads, and bad things can happen when children decide to go out and venture out on their own because they're looking for food. Even though they might be well fed, they still feel hungry at the end of the day, so they'll try to sneak out. And here's an example of one of the refrigerator locks. So that's one of the things, keeping everything locked up is a huge key, and preventing weight gain and so on. And according to the PWSAUSA.org, people with Prader-Willi syndrome have a 40% less metabolic rate than the average person, so that obviously doesn't work out very well, doesn't go hand in hand when you're always hungry, and you also can't eat as much, so you also can't eat as much to sustain similar weight to other people. And also lower IQ, most of the children have lower IQs. And the calorie-wise, here's the food plate, 800 to 1,200 calories. There's the regular government food plate that's set in for like public schools and whatnot. And obviously you can see over here, it's a lot more advanced, and there's a lot more things that have to be considered with a Prader-Willi plate, so it makes it hard for those kids in public schools having to do the proper adaptations to keep their correct diet versus our diet, like me and you, or me and our. So now that I went over the prognosis, I want to talk about some of the future outlook and what doctors have come up with. So there's a promising outlook for it as science and as technology advances more quickly every year. The Foundation of Prader-Willi Research shows that there's 6 FDA drug trials going on right now, and it's not to make a chromosome or anything like that, but it's just to help the effects of it. And if they find a cure, not a cure, but a medicine that can help these kids, with their attitudes and some of the problems they deal with, including obviously the main focus is not feeling as hungry. It would be awesome. My sister's actually on one of the trials right now, and she's gone to Nashville 10 different times doing research, and even the families come out, and they've done a family research, so there's a lot that has gone into it. And I'm sure with a lot, if you can relate, there's a lot of other families that have had to do the same thing. So now that I got that kind of out of the way, We talked about the history and the facts, the prognosis, and the future outlook. Um, we're headed in the right direction with it, and I really hope that eventually we can find a cure and it will really help benefit any family that's affected by it or the person itself. And I think that there's a really good future. And then I want to show at the end right here, this is the People with Smiles camp. It's going to take over in June, and I encourage anybody, if they can, if they're watching this, to volunteer in the camp if you want to learn more about it. And also, here's a few other websites if you're curious about this, because I only have a few minutes to talk. If you're curious about it, you can go to these websites and check it out and research the syndrome yourself a little bit more. So that was speech 3. Now I'm going to do speech 4. Wherever my note card went. There's my single note card, and this is going to begin. So everyone in the Science Center at TJC right now has a special guest that's coming up. I want to go ahead and read a quote off. When something is important enough to you, you will do it, even if the odds are not in your favor. Who said that? Elon Musk. If you're wondering a little bit more about Elon Musk, if you don't already know, he fits being at the Science Center today. He was born in South Africa, and then he's moved to the United States. He moved to the United States in the 90s, and something relatable is that he now, over the past year, has moved a lot of his company stuff and has moved himself actually to Texas, just a few hours away down near the Austin area. Now, what qualifies him to be here? Well, he's the CTO, CFO, and the chief designer of SpaceX. And I'm sure everyone in here is familiar with SpaceX, and we're in the Science Center, and we're talking about space. So I think that y'all will like this. I give a warm welcome to the one and only Elon Musk.